I know that using After Effects can be pretty confusing, especially if you just started using it. So today we will create this exact TikTok edit from start all the way till it's finished, so that by the end of this video you know exactly what steps to take for your videos to blow up. But before we start, we're gonna need these three things, which are scenes, a sound, and obviously After Effects. Now to find good scenes and footage that you can use for your edits, I would suggest you to find a good Instagram scene pack account. Essentially what they do, they just cut up all the important scenes from a certain movie of a certain character, so it's way easier for you to get all the clips. I will leave you the one that I use in the description. Now to find the sound, I personally just search on YouTube, TikTok or SoundCloud. Once you got all this and we open up After Effects, you should be met with this screen. And the first thing we're gonna do is click on new composition and set the overall resolution settings for our edit. Now because I wanna upload my edit to TikTok, I'm gonna use a format that fits TikTok. In this case 1170 by 1560. Alternatives to this format could also be 1080 by 1080, 1080 by 1350 or 1080 by 1920. It really depends what look you want. Once we set the right resolution, the next step is gonna be the frame rate. Obviously you want your edit to look smooth, so you want to go as high as necessary. I always like to put mine to 60 because anything that's beyond that isn't really going to be visible for the normal user. Once that's done, you should also set the duration, meaning how long your edit is going to be. If you don't know yet, don't worry, you can change all these settings later as well. This is about all we need. Now we're just going to click on OK, and as you can see, we are now met with our timeline. But of course, we still need to import our footage and sound, so just head to the top row under File, click Import, select File, and then choose whatever you want to edit with. Hit Import, and once you can see these two files in your project panel, just drag them onto your timeline. Now if you want to change the length or overall resolution of your edit, just right click onto your screen and select composition settings. This will just bring up the same window we had earlier. Now the first thing we want to do is mark our beat drops, because every time we have a beat drop in our audio, we're gonna go ahead and change our scenes. To do that, first of all, disable the audio of your footage and then right click onto your sound. Go to Keyframe Assistant and hit Convert Audio into Keyframes. Now you should have a new red layer, and we're gonna click on that and press U once on our keyboard. This should bring up all the keyframes, and now we're gonna select both channels and open up the graph editor. Now as you can see, we have a lot of spikes, which is very good because every time there's a spike, we know that there's a beat drop. So go to the point where your audio starts, and then you will realize that every spike is going to be a beat drop. Now obviously we want to set a marker every time there's a beat drop, so we can later on know when our scenes have to change. And now to create a marker, just go to the place and time where you want to have it, which is for me this first beat drop, and then head to the right of your timeline and click this little button. As you can see, now I have a numbered marker, and we're going to do that for all the beat drops, meaning the next spike for me is again a beat drop, so I'm going to go here and click the button again. Do that till you marked all the beat drops in your sound, and once that's done, it should look something like this. Now we can close the graph editor again and just delete this full layer. Now to finally get to some editing, we're going to start by selecting our scenes. Before we do that, make sure that motion blur and frame bending is enabled on your layer. Now selecting the scenes is where a lot of people struggle, so listen carefully. We're going to double click onto our footage layer, and you're going to see that there's a whole new preview popping up. We now have a little extra timeline that we can move through to select certain clips from the whole scene pack. Just drag this little marker ahead till you find the scene that you want to use for your intro. Once you found the right scene, we're going to go down and hit this little bracket. This is going to automatically cut to that place in time. Now head back to your main timeline and drag the marker all the way till the end of your intro, which is for me going to be the first beat drop. Then we're going to cut that layer right here by pressing Ctrl Shift and D, and now double click again onto the top layer. This way we already isolated our intro, and we're now going to find the rest of the clips. To do that, it's the same procedure. Just go ahead again and scroll throughout your whole scene pack till you find the scene that you want to use. Once you got the scene, we're going to go ahead back to this bracket, click it once, and it's going to cut to that place in time. Now go to the next beat drop, which is the 2, and cut the layer again by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. Repeat this process till you have all your clips. Once that's done, your timeline should look something like this, but what you now might notice is that some of the clips are not completely in frame. As you can see right here, half of his face is just cut off. And to now do that, we're just going to simply change the positioning of the clips. Select the layer that you want to change, press P on your keyboard, and it should bring up these two values. Now because I want to move my clip to the right, I'm going to increase the value that's on the left till it's nice and centered. Go to the next clip and do the same thing. Press P and increase the value till it fits your liking. Again, repeat this process for all the clips and make sure that they're nice and centered. Now in some instances, you might realize that the character is moving a lot whilst the clip is playing, like right here, he's moving his head a lot. And because obviously we still want our character to be the center of the screen, we're going to now add a face tracker, which will just track his face and make sure it's nice and centered. To do that, just double click onto the clip and it's going to open up this layer again. Then head to the right and open your tracker panel. Click Stabilize Motion, and you're going to see these two track points appearing. Now increase their size a bit by dragging them larger, and now put them on the nose of the character right here. Why the nose? Because we want to have a point that's easy to track. If we were to use his eyes while he blinks, it's going to kind of mess up the tracker because there's some movement happening. And now we're going to go back to the tracking panel and hit Analyze Forward. Now it's just going to analyze the whole clip, which might take a while depending on how fast your computer works. Once it's done tracking, we're going to go to Apply, choose X only, and then press OK. And now as you can see, the character stays nice and centered throughout the whole clip. I would suggest doing it for all your scenes, but it's not obligatory. Now before adding our first effects, we're going to go ahead and pre-compose all our layers. Pre-composing just isolates the layers and that makes it easier for us to work with them. To pre-compose a layer, just right click, go to pre-compose, And we're now going to select the bottom option and enable this check mark. Once that's done, press OK. Or alternatively, you can just press Ctrl, Shift, and C on your keyboard. Again, select the bottom option with the check mark and press OK. Do this for all the clips, including the intro. And now our first effect that we're going to add is called twixtor. Twixtor will simply just add a slow-mo and make our clips seem way smoother. To add your effect, go to the Effects and Presets panel and search for twixtor. Select the normal one and drag it onto your clip. Now, before we create the effect, we're going to have to change some settings. Start by putting the image prep from none to contrast/edge enhance. Put the motion sensitivity all the way up and put the frame interpolation from blend to motion weighted blend. Now, to create the effect, we're going to set a keyframe for the speed percentage. Just click the little stopwatch and set the value from 100 to 250. Make sure you're on the first frame of your clip. Now press U to bring up this keyframe. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. And now go ahead to the middle of the scene. Set the value from 250 down to 60. Go to the end and set it to 250. Now you should have 3 keyframes, but because we don't want to be like CapCut editors, we're going to change the graph of this animation. To do that, start by selecting all of them, right clicking, go to keyframe assistant and hit easy ease. Now open the graph editor, and adjusting this graph will basically just change the speed in which our animation is playing. And because we want it fast at the beginning and fast at the end, we're going to click on the graph once and then drag ahead this yellow handle a bit to the left, approximately this much. Now select the one at the top and just drag it down. And now for the other side, we're going to do the same thing but reverse. Just click on it once, now drag it towards the opposite direction. And the top one we're also just going to drag down. Make sure they look nice and equal. And now we can close your graph editor again. And now because we want this effect on all of our other clips as well, we're going to go ahead, select all the keyframes, click onto our effect in the effects control panel and copy it by pressing Ctrl and C. Now we're going to go to the first frame of the next clip, very important, and paste this effect by pressing Ctrl and V. Now if you press U to bring up the keyframes, you can see you have all the keyframes on here as well. But when we zoom in, you can see they don't really match with the end. And now to fix that, we're just going to select all of them, and while pressing down Alt on our keyboard, drag them till they fit. And of course, now we're going to do this for all the other clips as well, because we want our effect to be on all of them. Now once we added the twixtor to all of our clips, you will see that the edit already looks way smoother. Now the next thing we want to do is bring up some movement, because as of now, the edit looks pretty stiff. And what better way to do that than adding some zooms? Now the effect that I always like to use to add my zooms is S_blur curves. By the way, if you can't find any of these effects in your After Effects, make sure to join the Discord link via the description, because we have all the plugins on there. To edit, again, just go to Effects and Presets and search for S_blur curves. Drag it onto your clip, and now we're going to set a keyframe at the start of the clip for the Z distance and put the value from 1 down to 0.8. As you can see, it's a bit zoomed in now. And to make the animation, we're going to go to the end of this clip and put the value back to 1. As you can see, it's now zooming throughout the clip, but because we're not CapCut editors, we're going to change the graphs again. Start by pressing U to bring up the keyframes, then select both of the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant and hit easy ease. Now open up the graph editor, zoom in a little bit, and now this time we want it fast at the beginning, linear throughout the clip, and fast at the end again. So we're going to go ahead, click onto the graph, and drag this first yellow handle straight up, about this much. Now again, for the other one, we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to click on it and drag it straight down, above the same amount. Always preview the clip once so you can make sure it looks good. And once you're satisfied, we can close the graph editor again. Like earlier, we're going to apply this to all our clips. So go ahead, select both the keyframes, click onto the effect in the top left corner, press Ctrl and C on your keyboard to copy, then go to the first frame of the next clip and paste it by pressing Ctrl and V. Now if you press U, you can see we have these extra keyframes. And again, to adjust them to our clip length, we're just going to select both of them. And while pressing down Alt, drag them till they fit. As I said, apply this effect to all the other clips. And once that's done, you can see that our edit already looks way smoother. But what would be a good edit without a good intro text? So that's exactly what we're going to do next. To edit text, head to the toolbar and press the T symbol, which stands for text. Then click onto your screen and type in what your character is saying. Once that's done, we obviously want to make some changes to this text because this looks horrible. Looks like it's been made on CapCut. So we're going to start by aligning the text to the center. Open up your align panel and click align horizontally. Now double click onto the text layer to select the whole text. Open up your character panel on the right. And now the settings in here are going to change the text. For example, if you want to change the color to white, which I would suggest, you're going to click onto this green box, put it to white, press OK, and as you can see, our text is now white. If you want to increase the size of the font, you're going to go ahead and increase this value. If you want to decrease it, you're going to do the other way around. Now this setting right here will increase or decrease the space between each letter. And this one will stretch the text vertically. Feel free to copy my values. And to now spice the text a bit up, we're going to add some effects to make it look better. Again, head to your effects and presets panel and search for deep glow. Drag it onto the text layer and put the value from 1 down to 0.25. The radius we're going to put from 500 to 400. Now search for bevel. Select bevel alpha and drag it onto your text layer. Put the edge thickness to 4 and light intensity to 0.3. Last but not least, to add some more depth, we're going to search for drop shadow. Drag it onto the text layer and we're going to put the opacity to 100, the distance to 8, and the softness to 50. Now if you want to change the color of a particular word, just double click onto the word and change the color via this box again. Now make sure to add this text to whatever your characters are saying. To help with that, you can click onto your intro and press L twice to bring up the waveform. Now everywhere you see these spikes, you know that the character is talking. So I'm going to go ahead to the place where these sparks start again and cut the text layer right here by pressing Ctrl, Shift, and D. And now I'm just going to replace the words in the top layer with what the character is saying. Double click the text and type what your character is saying. Do this for everything your character is saying in the intro. Don't leave any blanks. Now next, we obviously don't want our text to just appear and disappear out of nowhere. Meaning we're going to have to add some cool text animations. Luckily, they are all integrated within After Effects. So just go to your effects and presets panel and search for slow fade on. Drag it onto the first text layer layer, and as you can see, your text just vanished. Don't worry though, just press E on your keyboard, and you can now see two keyframes. One is at -100%, and the other one is at 100%. These just indicate the completeness of your animation, meaning the first one means where your animation has 0% started, and the second one means where it's 100% done. And now we can just drag ahead these keyframes according to our waveform that we can see at the bottom. As you can see, our character stops speaking around here, so I'm gonna drag this keyframe to that place. And if you now play the clip, you can see that it matches up with what the character is saying. Now to make the text disappear again, I like to use normal opacity. So go ahead a few frames before your character stops speaking and press T on your keyboard. Now set a keyframe for 100 and go to the very end where your character fully stopped speaking. Now just simply decrease the value from 100 down to 0. And as you can see, the text now slowly disappears. Again, we're gonna do this for all the text layers, and make sure to use the waveform as a help tool. Now again, apply these to all of your other text layers. And once this is done, we obviously also want to add some movement to our text layers, so they're not so stiff. And the effect we're going to use for that is called increased tracking. Again, just go to your effects and presets panel and search for increased tracking. Drag it onto your first text layer, press U to bring up the keyframes. And how this is going to add movement is by stretching the letters out. But obviously we don't want this much, so we're going to put the amount from 40 all the way down to 4. Now very important, make sure that you stretch the keyframe all the way to the end, so that the animation lasts throughout the whole text. Now again, to add this effect to all the other layers, just copy the two keyframes, go to the beginning of the next text, and paste it by pressing Ctrl and V. Now again, by pressing down Alt and dragging, you will adjust the length so it fits your layer. Now it's finally time to add some smooth details. Make sure to include these because they can make the difference between a bad and good edit. Let me show you. For example, I want to have my first clip with a white flash. To do that, I'm just going to create a new solid layer by pressing Ctrl and Y. I'm going to set the color to white and press OK. Now I'm going to cut it to the length of my first clip by pressing Ctrl and D. And now again, I usually like to use the normal opacity fading. So go to the first frame of the solid, press T on your keyboard, and set a keyframe for 100%. I'm just going to zoom in so it's a bit more clear. Now drag this keyframe one frame to the right, just like this. And then we're going to go to the end and set the opacity value from 100 obviously down to 0. Now again, we want to add some graphs to make it smoother, so select both of them, right click, go to keyframe assistant and hit easy ease. Open the graph editor, and this time I'm just going to drag the top one all the way to the left, like this. Now this is just one example of many that you can add to your edit. Make sure to check the video in the top right corner right now if you want to learn more. And now because I want to loop my edit, meaning have the actual editing part play twice, I'm going to go ahead and select all the pre-compositions, including the white solid but without the intro, and pre-compose them all together. Just right click, go to pre-compose, select these two options and press OK. Now by pressing Ctrl and D, you can duplicate this layer, meaning you now have it twice, and then drag ahead the top one till it matches. Make sure to zoom in and match it frame by frame. But of course we're not done yet, because now comes the most important part, which is going to be adding a good color correction. Go ahead to layer, press new and select adjustment layer. Now we're going to go ahead and duplicate this empty layer 2 times, so that we have a total of 3 new layers. Now a mistake that I see so many new editors do is completely disregard the importance of a good color correction, because as you can see, adding a good color correction can increase the quality of your edits immensely. And if you want to get this exact color correction that I use to make my videos look the best as possible right now, make sure to check the first link in the description, because I'm still currently running a huge sale in my shop. You can get all my presets for up to 70% cheaper, so it's a good opportunity and a must-have for every new editor. It's a limited time offer, so if you want to take editing and posting on social media more serious, click the first link in the description and learn from the best. Once you edit your color correction, next thing we're going to add is a flicker. So go ahead to your effects and presets panel and search for S_flicker. Drag it onto the top adjustment layer and change the amplitude from 0.2 to 0.1. Now put the frequency from 30 down to 10. Next we're going to add a panning to make the edit less stiff. For that I'm going to use S_shake. Go ahead, just search it in your effects and presets panel and drag it onto the bottom adjustment layer. Now put the amplitude from 1 to 0.2 and the frequency from 8 to 3. Enable motion blur, and because we don't want goofy ass CapCut editors to steal our edit, we're now going to go ahead and create a watermark. For that, just select the text tool in the top, click onto your edit and type your name. Make sure to adjust the text settings so it fits your liking, and then center it to the middle. Now go to effects and presets and search for drop shadow. Drag it onto the newly created watermark layer at the very top. Change the opacity from 50 to 100, distance from 5 to 8, and softness from 0 to 12. Now hit toggle switches at the bottom of your screen and switch the mode from normal to overlay. Now if you have to, and there's some excess part like you can see right here, right click onto your screen, go to composition settings, and then change the duration to whatever fits best for you. And to now get this edit out of After Effects, we're going to use the normal render settings. So just head to the top, select composition, click add to render queue. Now click on where it says match render settings and change the format to QuickTime. Press OK, specify your output, and then just click render. Note that this might take a while depending on how fast your computer works. And once it's done, this should be your final result with and without color correction, and the difference is just crazy. So check the first link in the description. Watch this to learn how to make a shake edit. Subscribe for more and see you next time.